So that's the basic overview. And clinical trials by the numbers will give you a sense of just how large these efforts are. So in 2015, the Pharma Industries Trade Organization, PhRMA, P-H-R-M-A, and Battelle, they put out a report that describes the current state of clinical trials. So this is a sense of how many clinical trials are going on at any one point in time. In 2013, we had something like 1 million people involved in clinical trials that year, and the number across phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 looks like this. Quite a lot, but actually also a small number in another respect. It turns out that if you look at cancer as just one particular area, there are about 14 million Americans suffering from one kind of cancer or another, and people estimate that cancer patients comprise about 5% of the clinical trials in cancer, which is a shockingly small number when you think about it, because there are many patients that could be helped, and we could learn a lot from having more cancer patients participate. In terms of the number of trials, you can see that the very largest number actually happen in cancer. There are many different kinds of cancer, and there are lots of products now that are being developed for it, so it's not surprising that you've got so many patients. But even so, the fraction of cancer patients that are in trials is really minuscule. And one of the issues, one of the challenges that the industry is facing right now is something called accrual. How do you get more patients to join these trials? The more patients we have, the more we can learn about which drugs are safe and effective. Now I want to talk a bit about costs, because this figures directly in some of the analysis that we do. Why are clinical trials so expensive? Well, this is why. If you list all of the different budget items for what a clinical trial requires, it's a long list. I won't go through it with you. You can take a look at it on your own. But the numbers, when you put numbers to these trials, you're getting costs on the order of about $36,000 per patient per phase. So that's a lot of money, and it also takes a lot of time and a lot of people to be able to do these trials. And if you take a look at cancer, so this is just the average. If you take a look at cancer, cancer is probably double that. You know, the average cost for a cancer clinical trial is about $60,000. So when you multiply all of these numbers by the number of patients, you can sort of see why a clinical trial is on the order of 5 to 10 million at phase 1, and now 50 to 100 million at phase 2. The more people that you have, it just scales linearly. And then, of course, after you pay for all of that, you have to file with the FDA. And as of 1992, the Patient Drug User Fee Act, PDUFA, requires that applicants actually pay the FDA to do this. Not because the FDA needs the money. Well, they need the money in order to process the application, because prior to PDUFA, there were very long lead times for review processes. In fact, I think in the 1990s, the median time it took to review an FDA application at the FDA was close to 2 years, about 20 months. That median time has been cut in half now, and it's because PDUFA requires the applicants to pay, and the amount of money that is required, from my point of view, is not that much. But in the grand scheme of things, it really accelerates the process. So just to give you an idea, in 2017, the application for a new drug cost about $2 million. And that $2 million sounds like a big number until you realize what's involved. The FDA actually has to review all of your data and will go out and inspect the sites where the trial was conducted, as well as to inspect the manufacturing facilities that produces the drug to make sure that they're going to be safe and up to standards. So this whole process requires lots of different stakeholders and a very large expense. That's where the financial commitment and therefore the financial risk comes from. Remember Eroom's law? That said that things are getting more expensive and more difficult. Well, this is one of the reasons. It's that complexity is actually growing, and in the Patel Pharma study, they list a few examples of how complexity has increased, just even over the last 5 or 10 years. For example, the clinical trial treatment period from 140 days in 2000 to 175 days over the more recent period from 2008 onwards. 55 pages for case reports for the protocol, up to 171 pages, and somebody has to prepare those pages. So you can see that because of the complexity of the underlying biology of these diseases, things are getting more expensive. Whether or not that's justified is a separate story that we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the semester.